thank you very much for joining us this morning. My name is Nancy Kostopoulos, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of the American Marketing Association, and our international headquarters are located here in Chicago, and I'm really excited to, pardon me?
We're not in Chicago.
I know. Let me finish. Oh, excuse me, here in Chicago, sorry. Our corporate headquarters are in Chicago, and I am happy to be here in Los Angeles. I lived out here for many years in the Pasadena area, so it's always fun for me to come back here. It always feels like I'm at home, and also the weather is always fabulous, and I miss it very much, so it's exciting for me to be able to come out here. So again, welcome, and thank all of you for joining us today for our event, Online Marketing Convergence in the Cloud. I'd like to thank our partners this morning, Crown Peak and also Rackspace Hosting. They have been integral in helping us put this program together and providing the thought leadership today. Following Matt, we will invite Robert Rose, who is Vice President of Marketing at Crown Peak, to join us. He is a veteran Internet executive, and he has been providing strategic marketing and technology-related consulting for web startups since 1994. And if you think very quickly about what we were all doing in 1994 relative to the Internet and the web, that really says something, because that's a lot of experience and leadership shown over those years. He joined Crown Peak in 2002 to drive the company's strategic marketing and corporate communication efforts. And prior to Crown Peak, he served as VP Strategic Planning for Ignited Minds and was formerly an associate partner with US Web CKS. And he has served in various positions at SIIA's software division. And as I mentioned, please review more information about our speakers and the companies in your book today. So
let's just jump into the first one here.
I'd like to invite Matt up here to get us going.
Which is, it's about your process and not the product. So it used to be, and when I say used to be, I mean so early 2000s, that the website was all about the E, right? It was all about the e-business, the e-commerce, if you were the bank, for example, so your website, it was the online banking application. Or if you were a retail organization, it was the e-commerce catalog. Or if you were an insurance company, it was the way to get retail and wholesale quotes out the door. You're basically, the e-business team was brought in to make the web functional for that organization. How is it going to be functional? How is our website going to be a destination, a portal? How is it going to really involve our business and bring our business online? And some of those were absolutely critical and absolutely brilliant strategies that happened. They were really what brought the organization into the dot-com age and that which immediately followed. But then a weird thing happened, is that the content site, the marketing site, it got washed up in the technology backwash of that whole effort. It even got to the point where, now the brochure site, it's sort of a pejorative term, right? It's just the brochure site, it's just, oh, we're only dealing with the brochure site, right? The content website became sort of the secondary thing. And the main website, because it was the main functional thing, it was very rightly up inside the e-business or the technology team. The technology team owned that absolute piece of technology, because the online banking application is highly secure, very rightfully so. The e-commerce catalog, you're taking credit card information. Of course it's really secure. So you've got to have a really draconian process for how those sites are updated. And they may not be search engine optimized. They may not be friendly for marketing. It may be very difficult to get content up on that website. And it was just so time consuming and expensive to launch that second site, to launch that series of microsites, to launch those landing pages. They just didn't get done. And so what happened was that marketers sort of had to find themselves beholden to the e-business or the technology team to get the stuff done on using the tools that they had for that e-business. The most important marketing channel, and that the web is really the primary source for all buying decisions, right? So anybody making a buying decision now, 90% of them are using search engines to find the buying info, to find that content that's going to convince them. And those same companies, the ones that are achieving that greater than 100% return on marketing investment, they're updating their site at least once a day, if not more than once a day. So that's a really important stat, because that means that they're updating their web content at least once a day, if not more. And the one that I really love comes from Marketing Sherpa, where they're talking about companies that manage and tweak landing pages for conversions. In other words, they're optimizing the content on those pages for conversions. They're realizing an average of 40% increase in those conversions. So if you've got clients today that have landing page programs, and those landing page programs are pointing to the home page, you are leaving money on the table. You are absolutely leaving money on the table. If you do not have a landing page program for those paid search campaigns that are optimized through landing pages for that content, you're leaving money on the table, and maybe you'd realize a 40% increase in your conversion rates. So we come out of this last year really in this sort of Web 2.0 induced haze, right? You know, so we've all had the airline magazine thrown down on our desk saying, why aren't we here? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we actually in Web 2.0? Why don't we have content ratings? Why don't we have a community on our website? Why don't we have the ability to do social media? Why don't we have this? And we've got to have this tomorrow. We've got to have all of this tomorrow, right? And so we've got this weird yin and yang going on right now as marketers where we're supposed to be having this, you know, sort of engaging conversation and engaging users, but on the other side we've got to be able to measure every single thing that we do to prove what we're doing is correct. So what I want to hopefully sort of show with this trend is that in 2009 it's just got to be okay if we in marketing use the web differently than the e-business team does. A strategy should be aligned, absolutely. And this is something where I think that, you know, sort of the Rackspace thing comes into play here, right? So setting up infrastructures is this idea that I call online marketing on the edges, where you can set up infrastructures quickly. Software as a service has a role to play here for sure, but even if you're using open source tools or you're using custom built tools or you're using your own tools that you built within your own agency, whatever that is, set up the idea that you can experiment in an infrastructure that's completely separate from the organization itself that has the e-business initiative. It just shouldn't take 42 people around a conference room table and a 6 weeks technology requirements definition to launch a blog. It just can't take that long. It just can't take 42 pages of documentation to launch a social media marketing. We've got to be able to experiment with those things and experiment with them quickly so that if they don't work, we can turn them off. And if they do work, now we can start to talk about involving that into the IT group, into the greater infrastructure, because guess what? Now we have an ROI argument. Now we have a business argument to say, now we can move this stuff into the infrastructure and get the efficiency that we want across that structure without having to go out and do that huge unwieldy technology project to go prove that point in the beginning. Boom, they publish those pages out. They don't have to worry about it. It's automatically handled through the publishing engine, and they're starting to optimize their content. And then they can measure, of course, if that's driving up their affiliate fees or if they're not driving up their affiliate fees or, you know, whatever they're doing, and they can optimize their site accordingly. So a really creative way to start to use data to optimize their website. I'm going to give you a sixth here because it's probably the Uber rule that manages all of this. And that's budget to fail. So one of the most important things, if you don't take anything out of today, take this back, which is now in this economy, more than almost at any time ever, we've got to be able as marketers to experiment. We've got to be able to try new things, try experiments that may fail. So you've got to have budget to fail. You've got to have the permission from your management team, from your client, to devote a certain portion of your budget to experiments that may not work. If you are successful in any of your marketing programs, it is because you have failed in others. And that's an important and very hard thing to sometimes get into an organization. I understand that. But getting some portion of your budget into an experimental sort of things that we can try, that is what is really going to help us exponentially take the next step up as success in marketers. So one of the keys here is getting permission to actually fail. I put this in my office, and it's one of my favorite quotes. It's just Albert. So I just thought I'd close with this because I think it's a really good one by Einstein, which basically says, you know, if you've never made a mistake, you've never tried anything new. And for those of you who are trying new things, I think this is an extraordinary time for online marketing and time for us, a really, really cool time for us to get extraordinarily creative with how we use content to drive a lot more success. And with that, I would like to thank you very, very much for listening.